Good morning, church. I hope you're all really well. I'm enjoying a day off from work today on a Monday morning. Always a really good thing. Sun looks like it's still shining, so Peter and I will be heading out for a walk, hopefully later on. So today's word for Advent is patience. Now, I don't know about you, but patience is not one of those words that I'm going to be jumping up and down with joy if somebody tells me that I've got to be patient. I don't think if you were at a conference and somebody said that they were going to be speaking on patience, that you're necessarily going to have people flocking to hear that talk. If you mentioned patience in my house, there would be quite a lot of eye rolls and groans and not huge enjoyment or delight at the thought of being told to be patient. And yet, it's one of the fruits of the Spirit that Paul lists in Galatians that are one of those kind of characteristics or telltale signs that we are followers of Jesus, that we are walking with Jesus, and that we are journeying with him. So it's really, really, really important. And I think 2020 is one of those years where we have probably been forced and pushed into positions of patience that we wouldn't have perhaps picked, that we haven't perhaps enjoyed. There's been many celebrations, birthday celebrations, wedding celebrations that have had to look really quite different to how we would have liked them to look. Some of them may have even been cancelled. We have to queue outside shops often for quite a long period of time to get in and just even get our groceries. We've had to be patient while we learn how to homeschool or work from home, and never having previously done that. We've had to be patient as we wait to hear from the government as to who we can see or we can't see. Am I going to be able to see my family next week? Am I going to be able to meet up with my friends? So 2020 has been a year where we've probably been aware of our impatience, but we have been pushed into positions of having to wait patiently. And I think as a society, we are not known for our patience. We are often more interested in the destination than the journey. We're more interested in the outcome than the process. So it's a bit like... what are your exam results? It doesn't matter how much you studied or how hard you worked to get there, but what was the end result? How much money did you make this year? Have you got that promotion yet? Have you reached the end of your story? Have you reached the goal or the destination without looking at the journey or how we got to go there? And yet when I look at Jesus and when I look at the Bible, I see something completely different. I often feel that God's really not in very much of a hurry. His timing is always perfect, but we never really see him hurried. We see Jesus sort of traveling around with the disciples. He's got a destination in mind, but often his route to getting there is not straightforward. It's full of interruptions. It's full of people who he stops and listens to, or stops and ministers to, or stops and heals. I wonder how that made the disciples feel. I can imagine I might feel quite frustrated. Jesus, we need to get to this place by sunset, and you're stopping to talk to everybody who wants to speak to you. But Jesus wasn't really ever in a hurry. When we look at lots of characters in the Bible, like Abraham, Moses, Daniel, Ruth, Joseph, they often knew the promises of God really from a very early age. God promised certain things in their life. And yet it took many years of choosing patience with God, of choosing to let him mould and shape through circumstances, often very difficult circumstances, before they were ready for the fulfillment of that promise. Now, we've got the benefit of being able to read their stories from beginning to end. We know the outcome. We know that it was good for them to wait patiently while God moved and shaped them and transformed them. But for us, I wonder how many of us are right in the middle of our stories. We know the promise of God. We know what he said over our lives, but we're waiting. God, is this ever going to change? Is this ever going to be different? What are you doing here? Are you going to fulfill that promise that you have given me? And I would just really encourage you to ask him, what are you doing in my journey? What are you doing during this journeying with you, Jesus, during this season of waiting patiently? Most of those characters chose patience with God. They didn't always get it right. In fact, most of them, thankfully, made quite a few mistakes along the way. But they chose to journey with God. They chose patience while He worked in their lives, and He changed them, and He transformed and shaped them. One of those, probably one of those ones that stands out for me, would be Joseph. When we meet Joseph right at the beginning, he's quite an arrogant young man. He's the favourite son in his family. He really kind of winds up his brothers, tells them all of these amazing things that God's going to do in his life. And when we see Joseph at the end of his journey, he is completely different. He is humble, he is kind, he is looking into others' needs, he is a good leader, and he has journeyed with God, and he has chosen to wait patiently for the promises of God. And he ends up being the kind of leader and the kind of person that God uses spectacularly for a nation. So my challenge for you during this Advent season is, are we choosing patience? Are we choosing to let God journey with us? Are we choosing to let Him mould and shape in the process? Don't be so intent on the destination that we miss the journey. Don't be so intent on the outcome that we miss the process. God loves us so much. He wants us to be in that place of relationship, in that place of journeying with Him. He wants communion with us. He wants relationship with us. So I would just really encourage you during this time of Advent, during 2020, when we've had to be more patient. God, I choose patience with you. I choose to let you do what you want to do in my life. Have an amazing day.